Hello, everybody. I almost said welcome to the podcast. We're not on a podcast right now, but I am really excited that you're here. So we have something a little bit different that we're going to do tonight. Actually, I don't have a guest. Instead, and as you guys are all coming, in, we're going to be talking through, and the reason why you're here is because we're going to be talking about digital children's ministry. Now, if you're like most people, last year, whenever the pandemic hit, you had to pivot. But not only did you have to pivot, you found out that you didn't have the infrastructure built to actually be able to handle. You just didn't have the infrastructure to handle it, right? I mean, that's what many people found out. Not only did they not have the resources, they didn't even have the know-how, right? They didn't understand. Now, I can sit you down with a large group and have you teach. And many people who are children's pastors, children's directors, are able to just take that and run with it, and it's not a problem at all. However, if you tell me that I have to be digital, I struggle. And what ends up happening is that you begin to reach for what's familiar. And so the thing that I've been hearing a lot over the last 12 months has been, I just can't wait until it goes back to normal. And so the one of the things we're going to talk about this evening is how, if I look into my crystal ball, if I begin to look into the future, I don't see this going away. I don't see it going away. What I see instead is us needing to figure out levels and levels and levels of excellence and figuring out how to begin to do that. And so that's what we're going to spend some time talking about tonight, is that level of excellence. We're also going to spend some time talking about, if I look into my crystal ball, what I'm starting to see come down the road. I think there are some things right now that we are beginning to see that are quite simply indicators for us of where we need to be heading. And so that's also part of tonight. But I really have what I have for you. And when we talk about digital children's ministry, I have a resource out called the 5 Keys to Digital Children's Ministry. And so that's a free download. It's a resource that you are able to download. And what I want you to understand is, with these keys, each of them are simply something that I want you to look at as a guide, right? Not everything is always going to fit your context. If you're a parachurch, you're probably not going to be looking at the same problems that a normal church ministry would. If you are a multi-site church, it's going to look a lot different than if you only are single site. I mean, if you're a mobile campus, right? If you're a mobile church, so you don't have your own location, everything is going to be different for how you do ministry. And everything's going to be different for how you do digital children's ministry. And so we're going to have the 5 keys. I'm going to lay out a couple of others outside of those 5 that I've put in, that I've made and put in this guide. And so I want you to sit back. I want you to relax, because we are going to go on a journey, and we're going to talk through what I believe are just simply critical pieces that all of us are going to need as we move into the future. And so one of the things that I immediately think of whenever I begin to think of digital children's ministry, what is it? Like what's the thing? Does anybody know? Anybody comment? Like, what's the first thing that you think of when it comes to children's ministry? What's something that you think of? Yeah. Yep. Indicators, good perspective. Yeah. Sabrina. Yeah, we're not going back to normal. Fun. There you go, Josh. there's lots of things to consider, right? There's lots and lots of things for us to consider when we're thinking about a good digital children's ministry. I love the fun thing. Esther, yep, I agree with you. Fun. Josh, I agree with you. And we want to make things fun, but we also have to understand that children's ministry, when we boil it down, has to include the gospel, right? And so when we think of fun, we want to figure out, because we do this in our in-person ministries, we have to figure out how to include the gospel into this fun that we're having, right? We have to figure out how to, and yep, Elizabeth, I totally agree with you. Engagement. We have to be able to figure out how to engage people, right? We have to figure out how to engage people with the gospel. And so one of the things that I'm really, really passionate about right now is exactly what Elizabeth just said, engagement. So nothing's worse, right, than when we begin to post things, when we begin to put stuff on YouTube and all that, but nobody seems to be engaging with it. Maybe we see some views, but nothing really happens, right? Nothing happens. We aren't seeing any significant thing. There's not really life change happening even. Not any that we can see, because we're just not engaging with the people who are consuming the content. There's nothing worse than that. And so one of the things that is incredibly, incredibly important is, how are you going to engage with them? If your answer is, I'm just going to post more, well, what you're doing, my friend, is you're talking into a telephone, and you have your hand over the earpiece. You're not listening. You're talking. And by the way, many of us are good at talking. I talk for a living. That is what I do. I do podcasts. It's what I do for a living. I'm really good at talking. It's listening. So the first thing that I want to explain is how we're going to begin in our digital children's ministry to listen deeply into what our families are needing. And by the way, this looks as different as every single local church that you and I work in, that you and I have seen, okay? We need to listen. We have to listen to what they want. If we want to engage with people, we can't just talk. By the way, every spouse can tell you this, that if all that ever happens is you're talking and you're not listening to what I'm saying, or if you've tuned me out whenever I'm speaking, this is when things go wrong, right? This is when things can go very wrong. I know that Kelly gets very frustrated with me whenever I don't listen. So I have a couple of resources for you that I think are going to be just incredible tools for you to be able to use with your ministry. So I want to pretend like it's a Sunday, okay? You have your video scheduled to go live on Facebook. Maybe you premiere it, right? That's a really cool thing. We're going to talk about that on Friday. I'm going to talk about how to use Facebook as a tool on Friday for your children's ministry. But you have it scheduled. It's going to post really exciting stuff. And so it goes through the creator studio. All that stuff happens, and it gets to the end. And there's this interesting option that Facebook, whenever you look at your Facebook page, has this really interesting option in the Facebook video studio. And it says, do you want to enable Facebook Messenger? Okay. Do you want to enable Facebook Messenger? This is one of the easiest ways for you to be able to give a direct feedback channel to your parents. All you have to do is click that button, and literally at the bottom of the video, the parents are going to click on to watch with their kids. It gives them the ability to instantly direct message you personally. Now, what kind of control do you have if you have that going on, right? I mean, we talk about this all the time, how we feel like we don't have the ability to interact, especially as your ministry starts to grow. We feel like we can't interact with parents directly. This is giving them direct access to message you personally. I have an example of this. On Sunday, just this past Sunday, yesterday, I post the video. I make sure the messenger button is at the bottom of it, right? So I whatever. I'm monitoring, I'm commenting, people are liking it, they're making comments on the video, whatever. It's how that whole thing goes. And I had several messages that parents sent me. They literally clicked on that button and they actually sent me questions about the ministry. And so if at one point in the video, I said something about, hey, if you have any questions, we actually have an ability for you to be able to interact with us directly by clicking the messenger button at the bottom of this video. They actually were asking about baptism, and they also asked me about what our policies are for in-person gathering. Okay. They were families who were they were away because they have a child that is immunocompromised. And so they're starting to begin to go back out, and they wanted to know what our policies were. They wanted to know if we were masking. They wanted to know our cleaning policies. I was able to answer all of that right through Facebook Messenger, right? They had direct access to me, which is huge, right? There's nothing better than when you message somebody and instead of getting, some phone operator, you get the manager, right? I'm the children's pastor at the church. They got direct access to me. I was able to respond directly to them. So how are you listening? There are tons of other great ways. Google Forms has become like my best friend. Google Forms is one of the best ways of getting direct feedback from your parents. And it is as easy as this. All of us have databases at the churches that we work in, right? It'll take you less than 10 minutes. You can do this. You can set up a form, and here's what you need to ask. What are the 3 things that parents are struggling with right now? You can just ask this question. Give me your 3 things that you're struggling with. If you want to even make it easier for them, you can actually make a checkbox thing and just say, check everything that applies. And you can Google it. You can literally Google, hey, what are some tensions that parents are facing right now? You send that out, that list out. You send that out into your children's ministry email list that you have in your database already, okay? Send that out. See what answers come back. Then what you can do is you can begin to tailor your content specifically to what you know that your audience wants to hear. And that is your parents, and that's the children that you are serving, right? That is an incredible thing to be able to engage with your audience. We do this with children in person, right? We do this with children in person. We give high fives. We give side hugs. Now we do elbows, but we do all of that, right? We engage. We have our small group leaders. We teach our small group leaders, learn the kids' names. We teach them, learn the parents' names. We teach them to make sure that they do X, Y, and Z. We need to begin to engage in similar ways online. And that doesn't have to mean that you're spending hours combing through comments. That doesn't mean that you have to have perfect videos, though I know Esther somewhere is yelling at me saying that, your videos have to be perfect. Esther is my video queen. She is the perfectionist whenever it comes to all things video. But we need to make sure that we're listening. The second thing that I want you to begin to do, Josh Denhart I saw was in here, and another friend of mine, Nick Blevins. Those are the 2 people in my life that when it comes to volunteers, okay, when it comes to volunteers, there's nobody better. There's nobody better at teaching about volunteers and how to recruit volunteers. There's nobody better at teaching how to care for those volunteers. There's nobody better at knowing how to activate them, right? There's nobody better. Those 2 guys are top of my list, Josh Denhart and Nick Blevins. And these 2 have taught me something very, very fundamental, okay? Very fundamental. And that is whatever thing you have in your ministry that's a pressure point, whatever the thing is that is a struggle, there's probably somebody that's better than that, than you are at that thing. Okay. There's probably somebody that's better than you at that thing. And that means that we need to be able to recruit volunteers for those positions. We have the ability to. These people are here for us. They want to serve. By the way, that's a very Christian thing to do, to equip saints to do things. It's interesting to me that during the pandemic, one of the number one things that whenever I would ask children's pastors about, they pretty much had just gone into care mode for their volunteers. They stopped having their volunteers engage in ministry. You could have your volunteers do so much stuff. So much stuff. Josh, you're exactly right. My red light is likely someone's green light. That's 100% true. I have teenagers who understand at a deep level how YouTube works. They understand it. They spend hours a day on YouTube. Okay. They spend hours a day doing it. One of the things that I think would be incredibly beneficial is to have them watch, just have one student, one or two, whatever you want, watch all of your videos before you send it out. Do you know why? They're what we call digital natives. They literally are digital natives. They're teenagers, but they can watch a video and say, hey, Pastor Todd, here's the thing. You did this thing weird. Like, this thing's a little, I don't understand it. It's kind of dumb. You know, it's really, or they can say, hey, that thing that you did, that was amazing. I'm going to try this in a TikTok video. Like, that was really cool. They are really, really good at catching the things that you and I might not catch. Teenagers are great to leverage to help with digital stuff. You know, the volunteer that helps you with mixing and running the soundboard on Sunday mornings? I wonder if you got them a subscription to something like Adobe Premiere, or if you got them something like Audacity or GarageBand. They probably, if you worked with them, you could train them on how to mix the sound for your videos. If you have a podcast for your church or for your ministry, for that as well. Activate your volunteers. In digital ministry, it is priceless. If you think you're going to be a one-man or a one-woman band, you're not. It's the same thing as in-person ministry. You will burn out. You'll burn out fast. And COVID has taught us something, that truly the statement is real. Truly the statement is real. That we were not made to live life alone. We weren't made to do ministry alone. And COVID hasn't taken that from us. By the way, God knew that COVID was going to happen. He knew it. He knew it. And he has placed people in our ministries who, if we asked, they'd probably be willing to help us with it. They would be willing to help us with it. Something else that I think that's really, really important. Okay. It is incredibly important. I was a part of a conference, 2 weeks ago now. And I was in a breakout session where the lady who was teaching, she was going through these different apps and technology. Okay. She was talking about different technology that are easy to use, that can do really powerful things. Okay. She mentioned things like InShot. She mentioned iMovie. She mentioned Headliner, things like that. All these different apps and things. You could legitimately, I tried it, okay? Because I was going to say this statement, all right? Because I knew I was going to say the statement I'm about to utter. I made sure that what I was saying was a real thing, okay? I know it is, but like I tested it. I had to test it out myself. I made our entire children's online service on my phone for this past Sunday. I did the entire thing on my phone. I wanted to very intentionally make sure that what I was about to say was actually real. I used iMovie as my video editor. So that's how I stitched everything together, right? I used InShot to kind of make the videos look better. I put some filters on them. I did some of that stuff. I used Canva, which is another app, to be able to make the title slides and some of the things that I was going to put into the video. Legitimately. Yeah, Josh, it was 100. I did it the whole thing 100% on my phone. I did the whole thing on my phone. I wanted to make sure that statement was real, because what I oftentimes hear is this. And by the way, I totally get it. I am not shaming anybody. When you say this, I understand what you're meaning. Todd, I don't have the equipment. I don't have the microphones that you have. I don't have the microphones that you have. I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to mix sound. I'm technologically illiterate. Guys, this phone created our Sunday online children's service. This phone. I don't say that to shame anybody. I say that so that we understand that we have more tools today than we've ever had before. Literally, we have more tools today than we have ever had, ever, at any point in human history, to be able to create engaging, fun, gospel-centered services and gospel-centered social media accounts, which brings me to my next thing, which is social media. This is the thing that people ask me about all the time. Okay. They ask me about this all the time. Now, there's a guy, his name is Gary Vaynerchuk. He is not a Christian. I'm going to tell you right now, if you Google him, you are doing that at your own discretion. Lots of not nice words. He says lots of not very nice words. However, he is a social media genius, and he's the person that I've learned the most from when it comes to social media. Do yourself a favor, look him up at your own discretion to learn about social media. But what I'm going to tell you are some of these brilliant nuggets that I have gotten from him. Okay. Brilliant nuggets that I've gotten from him. The first thing, Josh, I told them that he has a potty mouth. Discretion is advised. He said this thing that to me, I think applies instantaneously. Isn't it interesting how God does that? Like God takes somebody who, he very unlikely person to be able to help us, and he just flips it. And he said this thing, and it was so brilliant to me. He said, whoever it is that you're trying to reach, it is not because you don't have access to them. It's because you haven't tried. So here's what I did. I began to change the information collecting that I do at my church. Sabrina, his name's Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm going to type that really quick. Gary Vaynerchuk. He said this thing about how all that we have to do is try. And so I just took him up at his word, and I changed how I have begun to collect information from parents. So here's what I've done. New kid card, right? Parent's name, guardian's name, child's name, phone number, right? Now, the very next thing that typically comes is the email address. I still ask for the email address. Do you know what I ask for before I ask for the email address now? I ask for their Instagram handle, and I ask for their Facebook handle. Facebook made it so you can make custom handles now for Facebook. Do you know why I do that? Because the very first thing I do as soon as I get those cards is I send them an invite to join our parent group. It's the very first thing that I do. I want to make sure that I'm plugging them into the relevant places that they need to be able to get the most, mileage out of what we're doing. And so I ask specifically for their handles. Yes, Kathy. Yes, they do. Yes. To a person in their 20s. Okay. I'm almost 29 years old. All right. I'm almost 29 years old. Josh, yep, that's exactly what happens. I invite them to a parent group. If somebody asks me for my Instagram handle, all that they've done is just ask me for my phone number. That's all they've done. They haven't asked for some secretive piece of information that I'm unwilling to give. They've just asked me for my phone number. And we give our phone number away like it's candy for free. Okay. We give our phone number to everybody. So what I did was, to a person in their 20s, as soon as you asked me for my Instagram handle, now, by the way, I know many of you right now are going, I have no idea what my Instagram handle is. And that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to know your Instagram handle. You just have to get theirs. They give it to you. They'll give it to you. Once you have their Instagram handle, or once you have the thing that their Facebook handle, it's this easy. You can go into, yeah, I do, Josh. I do. I pick I want Facebook so that I can put them into a group. But with their Instagram handle, I can find their Facebook. All you have to do is type their Instagram handle into Facebook, and it will pull up any Facebook account that's associated with their Instagram account. So it's really handy. You can also do that with email addresses on Facebook. So if you have their email address, all you have to do is type in the email, and you can find any accounts that are associated with Facebook. So if I have their Facebook and if I have their Instagram handle, I have everything that I need to be able to find them and put them directly into that group. I want to make sure that I'm using social media and leveraging it in a way that actually works for me rather than against me, right? We oftentimes think that when we post more, that's actually how we're helping families. That's actually how we are doing something that's good for them. And we definitely want to be posting, right? We want to be posting helpful articles for families. We want to post content that is relevant to the kids. We want to post things that are helpful. However, I want to make sure that I'm making social media a tool. We're going to cover this on Friday. I'm going to talk to you about everything with Facebook. I'm obsessed with figuring out how to use social media to be able to help us to be able to engage families. Put them in a Facebook group. And that Facebook group could be the parent group. It could be the next gen group. Maybe it's one big group that has all the parents for the entire church, whether it's children, students, whatever. It could be specific things like if you have a new families Facebook group, which is something that I saw somebody do, you could do that as well, where you just talk specifically about, hey, here's the basics of what's going on in our ministry. There's so many different ways that you can do that. By the way, it's also a great Facebook group to be able to curate later on, Josh Denhart, to be able to curate potential 6 months down the road volunteers. Supposing that you take care of them well enough and that they stick around, which is what the next thing is. When I talk about engagement, when I talk about making sure that we are putting people and you making social media work for us, one of the top ways that we can use one of the top ways that we can use digital and the way that we can make the greatest impact in digital is by using technology to love families. This is the final thing that I wanted to talk about on the couple things that I'm just thinking about, the couple things that I'm playing with for how we can use digital in children's ministry and take it to the next level. Okay. We can use it to take care of families. So this is probably the one that's the most practical that I'm going to give you. Okay. I saved the most practical for last because I know that you're all going to want to take notes on this. Okay. So I was just talking with a friend of mine the other day, and he is doing something very similar to this in his ministry, but I think it's brilliant. Okay. I added it last week, end of the week. As soon as I talked to him, I added it. And the other thing that I did is built on some of this other stuff that I was already doing. So I'm going to walk you through again. Mom and dad come. They have Andre and they have Courtney. They're two little kids. They're 8 and 5 years old. Okay. They have two different classrooms that they're going into. Okay. One of them is a pre-K room or a kindergarten room. She's 5. The other one is an elementary room, right? It's a little bit more advanced, right? So, what's up, Steven? So glad to see you, buddy. So, what happens is they register at the front desk. Well, they don't do that anymore, right? Because now we're in digital world. So what they're actually doing is they're logging on. You see, they're logging on. When they log on, I have a moderator. Remember how I said we need to have volunteers? We need to have volunteers that are helping us. We have a moderator that is watching the chat. Okay, they're watching the chat, and one of the first things that they do is they put a welcome in there, saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm so glad that you are joining us today." Blah blah blah. If anybody is new and would like more information, click this link. That link is a landing page. Yeah, Stacy. So I use Facebook groups. Sorry, guys. Time out for a second. Just a great question. I use Facebook groups like my ministry page. Okay. I use Facebook groups just like it's a Facebook page. So I build it off of the church Facebook page. I build it off of the Facebook page. She asked, are you using Facebook groups like a page or a Facebook Messenger group? I use the Facebook groups like they're a page. Okay. So everybody gets invited who I want. I can invite them into that. I also have Facebook Messenger groups set up that are in that. It's instant ways of being able to communicate. I'm going to talk about this on Friday, how to use Facebook. But back to the thing. So they're in the chat and they type, hey, if you're new here, click this link. This link is a landing page that I have set up with ConvertKit. Okay, it's with ConvertKit, or you could do it a million different ways. Okay, it's just a landing page. Just Google ConvertKit. There's free versions of this. You make a little landing page. You say, hey, click this link. They click the link and it takes them to a space and it says, if you would like more information about the ministry, put in your email address right here. That email address, then I have it and I send them, it's an automated thing. So as soon as they put their email address in, they immediately are sent an email that has all the information from our whole thing. Here's the other way that you can do this. Okay. Here's the other way that you can do this. And I've had a lot of success with this. You can create a QR code. Okay. They're free. Google, type into Google. Google is your mother. Type into Google. How do I make a QR code? Cool. You type it in, and then one of your pre-service slides that you put up on the video that you're displaying is the QR code. Okay. And you put it into Canva and you make it cute, right? So you say, hey, if you're new here, scan this QR code type thing. They hold it up. What does that do? Well, a QR code is going to take them directly to a website where there's a welcome video and all of the resources that they're going to need to be able to understand how they can take the next steps to engage in your ministry. Okay. I want you to understand that there are ways now that we can take care of families, that we can engage families, that we can bring families into the mix. Here's another one. I just did this yesterday. Okay. Again, I wanted to test it out before I said anything about it because I didn't want to just say it and then somebody has to text me back and say, hey, Todd, it didn't work. You were just talking out of both sides of your mouth, dude. So I put up the videos on YouTube of our student services. Okay. And I'm next gen. So I do both children and students. And this is brilliant because you can do this with children too. And so I was playing a game and the prize was a $5 gift card to Starbucks. Okay. It was a $5 gift card to Starbucks. And it was the opener. So it was an opening thing that we were doing. And so they had to submit it. They had to text, a number thing. You could display that on the screen. Now, when the game was played, once it was done, both online and in person, got a chance to win. So I gave away one in-person prize and I gave away one online prize. Okay. Gave away one online. What's up, Gordon? Gave away one online one. And I actually did that this morning. And here's what I did. When they texted me that number, okay, when they texted me the answers to the thing, the phone number that they submitted, I took in my phone and I typed it into my Starbucks app. I scrolled up, I put $5 in as a gift, and I texted it right to the student. The student got a $5 gift card in their text messages to Starbucks. How many children, how many families could you be sending digital gift cards to with those ways? Yes. Yes. Josh, I love that. Pick collage videos of kids. You do have to have parents' permission. You have to be very careful. So when we're talking digital children's ministry, you have to be very, very careful of what you're doing in terms of photo stuff. Now, I've heard of churches that are getting weird, and they're doing stuff like they're saying, hey, if you're participating in this service, then you automatically have the ability to use to do that. They do that with in-person too, where it's like, if you are here, you're automatically, giving your consent to be able to have your photos used. I'd be careful with that. Like, I'm always really careful anytime I'm posting pictures that has kids in it. That's just a weird thing for me. But yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff like that. So Josh, are you asking like how about pick collage videos? So if you've got permissions, dude, I would do all sorts of things. Is that what you're asking? I think that's what you're asking. That's fine. He'll answer back. So at the end, what I wanted to do is I wanted to do two things. I wanted to give you the space to ask any questions. So we're getting some questions in. So right now, like if you have questions, please type those in. Dude, I think it's a great idea. I would do, what I've actually done is I have done, Josh, I have done photo collages, not of kids, but of like games and stuff that we were playing like with volunteers, of like when we were actually putting the games on while we were filming it. I've taken pictures of that and I've used it as like the opener, like the the countdown thing. And so like I've set that to music. And so you can do that. That's a great idea. So type your questions in. The other thing that I wanted to stress to you is just the importance of understanding that you and I have the ability to be able to reach all of the kids, all of the entire audience that we want to be able to reach through digital children's ministry. Okay. There's so many different ways. But what I wanted to tell you at the end here is I wanted to talk about what I'm seeing in my crystal ball. And here's what it is. And I have this all written in my 5 keys, and I'm going to put that in, drop that into the comments so that you will be able to have, I'm going to work on that right now so that you'll be able to have that guide as well. But as I'm looking into my crystal ball, what I am seeing is a children's ministry world that hasn't just changed. It's not just that it's changed. It's gotten better. Listen, I love puppets. I love flannel graph. Matter of fact, I did flannel graph. So we actually are in person right now. So we're having in-person services. And there was a story that I was going to tell. I was going to tell the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. That was what I was teaching on Sunday. We're going through some miracles of Jesus, and I was really just thinking I had this really great way of being able to tell the story. But Hala, if you've ever done this before, the way I always have told it is I did it on flannel graph. I did it on flannel graph. And I was really stressed out I was really like, am I really gonna film myself doing flannel graph? Like, is that what am I gonna do that? And what I realized is that it wasn't actually going to matter. It didn't matter what method I was going to use to tell the story. What mattered was that I told the story. That was what actually mattered. It mattered that I made sure that the kids had access to that story. And so, as I was sharing it and talking about it, I really felt like God just put this on my heart. And I truly believe this. I really do believe this, Children's ministry now is better. And I just put the link. I just put the link to those the 5 keys that I have. I just put it in the comments. I really believe that children's ministry is better now. It's better than it ever has been. And the reason why is we have access to all of the tools that the greats in children's ministry have always had access to. Puppetry, flannel graph, shadow storytelling. I forget what that's actually called, but I love doing that. I do it all the time. We also just have new tricks. Like we just have new things that we're able to do. So I know that everybody right now is hanging a lot of stuff on Easter. They're hanging like the for good reason, right? Jesus did die, and that whole thing, and he came back to life, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But like I feel like this year we're hanging like a lot more than just that on it. We're hanging the future hope of people coming back and like being in person again onto it. And we're thank you, Anne Marie, for saying object lessons. Todd forgets things sometimes. We're hanging a lot of this hope on Easter for in-person gatherings and our numbers going back up. And I just think that's a mistake. I think that you're going to find this Easter, there's going to be a lot of pastors that the Monday after Easter, they're going to be turning in their resignation because they're going to be completely discouraged. They're going to be completely discouraged. This thing is not a rocket ship that's going to take off. This is a slow burn. The way to make the fire grow bigger is digital. And so I just believe this. I believe this with all my heart. I think this fall is the most critical time in the life of the church that there has been in many, many years. In many years. And the reason that I think that is 2 things. I think this fall, you're going to see a lot of wheat separated from the chaff. And what I mean is the churches that embrace digital children's ministry, they embrace excellence, not just in person, but also in digital children's ministry. The people who really work to make sure that they are being inviting and giving and helping people through online. They're sending kids Starbucks drinks. They're setting up Zoom calls for small group leaders. They're making sure that the videos that they're producing, which they can produce with their phone, are the best quality that they can make. All of these things, I think, are going to be, they're all going to be tallied. And the reason why is simply because we have more access to more technology and to more things than we've ever had before. Okay. And parents know that. The parents of the kids that are in our ministries right now are in their 20s. I have parents right now in my ministry that are in their early 20s. They first used iPads. Listen to this one. Okay. They're 21 and 22. Okay. These parents. I asked them this because I was curious. The first time that they used an iPad, they were in 4th grade. And they used an iPad to be able to do their homework. They were in 4th grade, which means for their entire life, they have had tablets and smartphone technology. They have expectations of how we are going to interact with them, whether we want that or not. It's reality. I think this fall is going to be the most important fall in modern church history in the last several decades. I want to end with this. I have several resources that I think they're not mine. And nobody has paid me to do this. Okay. Nobody has paid me to do this. I have several resources that I just think that you guys need to be checking out because it's going to be crucial. The first one is Esther Moreno is hosting a conference April 24th. Okay. April 24th. And it is talking about children. The title of it is Children's Ministry Moving Forward. It's Children's Ministry Moving Forward. You can register for that conference on Esther's website, which I am putting right now in the comments. You really need to register for this conference. And the reason why is because the speakers that are going to be there are speaking into what children's ministry is going to be like down the road as we move forward. It's going to be digital. It's going to be incredibly, incredibly automated and accessible. Okay. That's the first one. The second one is this. My friend, Josh Denhart, he has created a course called Lead Volunteers. Okay. I mentioned today how important it's going to be able to have, Elizabeth, or which one are you talking about? The conference? You're talking about the conference? The conference, I believe, is $25. I think it's $25, which is it's affordable. That's what I'll say for that. Josh Denhart has created this resource called Lead Volunteers. If you go to leadministry.com, you have the ability to register for his course. I think that in this new world, in this new age, we're going to need to have volunteers. We need to begin to equip people to help us. And I just think in a digital world, we're going to need that all the more. Go check out that resource. The final one that I have for you is this. You got it, Josh. Got it exactly. Digital learning. Go to this website, and that's where you're going to find the podcast, the Herding Cats podcast. It's my podcast, and it's a place that's for free, okay? For free, where you are going to be able to listen every week to top quality people who are going to help you directly in your ministry. Thank you so much for joining today. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. Go ahead and you can search at the Todd Father 92. Remember how I taught you that you can search on Facebook? Search at the Todd Father 92. You can direct message me from there. I would love to chat with you. I would love to talk to you more about all things kid ministry. I would truly, truly be honored to do that. Thank you so much, Josh, for your kind words. And thank you, everybody, for joining me today. Friday, we're going to be talking specifically about Facebook. I'm really excited about this because I think that Facebook is the way that you are going to be able to interact with just your ministries in a much, much better way. Yes, Stacy, this is actually going to go up on YouTube. It will be there. What time is it? Ooh, it's 10 o'clock. It'll be there tomorrow morning. It will be there tomorrow morning. So all you're going to have to do is type in my name, Todd Hicksonball, into YouTube, and you'll be able to find it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with me today. Until next time, deuces, y'all.